Topic with Mike and JD. I'm JD.
And I'm Mike.
And welcome to the show. So today, we're going to talk about Warner Brothers Discovery and what the heck is going on with it.
It's quite a mess.
So just a quick backstory. To be fair, this is a lot more complicated than I'll make it to see, but very quickly, AT&T, the internet phone provider, decided, hey, let's get into entertainment. Let's buy Warner Brothers. And in 98, they merged with Warner Brothers. Then, just 3 years later, 2001, they're like, yeah, we don't like owning Warner Brothers. So, they decided to divest it and, again, complicate business stuff. In the end, AT&T got rid of Warner Brothers and now it instead merged with Discovery Inc. to make Warner Brothers Discovery, which is now held by David... I looked up how to pronounce his name and I already forgot. It's Zaslav?
Oh.
David Zaslav.
Zaslav, yes.
Zaslav, there we go. Okay, so he was the CEO of Discovery Inc. He's now took over as CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery. And things have just, to put it simply, weird since he started.
Yeah, like,
Now,
I at least in theory, you would think probably Warner is a better fit with Discovery
Alexa,
than...
oh, yes.
At least they're both, like, television...
Yeah.
But
that makes sense.
But yeah, it's been very strange since Zaslav took over. Between he's made a lot of just like sweeping changes.
Yeah.
So very polarizing, I would say.
Yeah, so Discovery Inc. Was previously made up of, mostly reality shows, Food Network, Discovery, like, all those networks. Now, Warner Brothers owns probably even more than you realize. So they, TNT, TBS, Cartoon Network, all the HBOs, CNN, they own all that. They own Mortal Kombat and the people who make the game. They own Looney Tunes. Of course, they own DC. And, like, they own so many IPs, Harry Potter, Game of Thrones. Like, I would strongly say that they're second only to Disney in, like, recognizable franchises that they own. Scooby-Doo. Like I said, Hannibal. They have so many, recognizable characters.
If you're curious what intellectual properties they own, just watch Space Jam 2 and look in the background, and you'll see.
Yes. Yeah, which, I mean, you can say a lot of bad stuff about that movie, but it did do a great job of showing off, hey, look at all the stuff we own. That it did a great job of. So,
exactly.
But yeah, so it's like, it's a huge company. And but David has not been very successful lately. And so now he's doing a lot of the questionable decisions. One of the earliest decision was CNN Plus. It was a bad idea to begin with. A news network streaming service. It was a bad idea, but they canceled it a month after it came out. Gave nobody any warning. I get why they canceled CNN Plus, but it's like, it was the way that they did it. It was like, you just left everybody scrambling there. That was his first big controversial move. His next big controversial move was far more, even worse though. And that was, there was also Scooby-Doo. Everyone forgets about Scooby. There was a Scooby-Doo movie that was almost finished, that was canceled. But the bigger news was Batgirl. $90 million, just about, they said it just needed some touch-ups. Canceled. They're going to do it as a tax write-off, which doing this, people are like, oh, we'll get released eventually. No. From what I've read, I'm no business expert, from what I've read, writing this off as a tax write-off means they can never release it. So,
yeah, that's my understanding as well. They can,
in theory, we'll never see this movie, in theory.
Yeah.
And, we didn't know much about Batgirl, but we knew the cast. Leslie Grace, who she was great in The Heights. J.K. Simmons as Commissioner, returning as Commissioner Gordon, who he was perfect casting in that role from the start. He just never had anything to do with the role. It was great. It was going to be great to finally see him do something with the role. Then there was also Brendan Fraser as Firefly. Brendan Fraser is in the middle of actually a big career comeback after being dormant for so many years. This was going to be part of that. And of course, Michael Keaton returning as Batman, which, I mean, if you're not excited about Michael Keaton returning as Batman and you claim to be a DC fan, I don't know what's wrong with you. Like, I mean, Michael Keaton was just a great Batman. And so it's just so disheartening that, like, I of course don't know about the quality of the project. Yes, there was rumors that the test audience hated, but one, test audience are often not good indicators of what the actual reception is going to be. And two, it was from a lot of unreliable sources. There was a lot of contradiction there. But maybe the movie was going to be bad. But even if it was bad, it's already finished. Like, everybody put hard work into it. Like, and you're just going to hide it in some vault forever now? That just is wrong to me. Like, if I was a creator working on that movie, that would just be, like, soul-crushing. And I would never want to work with Warner Brothers together after something like that. What's your take?
Yeah, I see both. I don't want to say I see both sides of it. Like, I mean, as just a lover of movies, I'm sad that I won't get to see this movie because, you know, it sounds like it had an amazing cast, and even if it was bad, it would sort of like, it would have been a cool artifact to see. And also, like you said, it's just like, I feel terrible for everyone involved, especially, like all of the people who just like poured their heart and soul into this movie, and now their work will never get seen. I do understand it's hard to really judge without knowing anything about the quality. Like, if this was Batman and Robin, like, 2, if this was just a dumpster fire of a movie, I can see the desire to can it, you know, mostly because, like you said, people are excited about Michael Keaton returning as Batman. If it's bad, then who's going to be excited for Michael Keaton as Batman in The Flash? You know, they don't want they don't want to kill any hype they have with the finished product if it's bad. But like I said, it's hard to kind of judge that because you would think, I mean, based on everything we know about the director, the stars, the writers, like, you have an all-star team assembled there, so it's hard for me to believe that it is that bad. But if it was that bad, I can see canning it, even if it was almost finished, just because DC is just known for just churning out terrible movies, and they're trying to turn that reputation around.
But you actually mentioned The Flash. I also want to talk about that movie. Now, if you can look it up yourself, but Ezra Miller, they have been a lot of controversy for the short version. Yes, I'm not going to get into all the controversies. There's many because we could do a whole separate video about all the different controversies.
Although they did apologize.
They've been getting into.
I don't know. I did not see the apology, but apparently they did apologize. So
yeah, but anyway, so they're a big mess, and now for months now, everybody has been saying, "Oh, Warner Brothers has to cancel the Flash movie." They have to cancel the Flash movie. Now, previously, I actually defended the decision not to cancel the movie because I'm like, yes, Ezra Miller is a very problematic person, but the movie is just about finished. It's more than just Miller's work. Like, I don't want to see many other movies, but I can forgive the decision to, okay, we already finished this movie, let's release it anyway. Yes, we know the lead actor is problematic, but hopefully you can still enjoy this movie anyway. I mean, they got paid already anyway. But see, now that they were so quick to shelve Batgirl, that changes my opinion. Because I'm like, well, if you shelve the Batgirl, why not just shelve this film too? Like, a Batgirl at least didn't have an extremely problematic lead. What's your take?
again, it's tough for me to judge without like, if you buy their narrative basically of like, oh, if I sat down and saw this movie and like The Flash is a masterpiece of a movie but has a problematic star and Batgirl's a hot mess of garbage, then I'm like, okay, then it makes sense to keep one and cancel the other. Like on paper, you would think it doesn't really make sense. Like, but it's also tough. I mean, I feel like just because of the effects and stuff, The Flash was probably also the more expensive of the movie.
Oh yeah, that is true.
Now, if you could get a larger tax write-off, then I would say just cancel that movie. So it is tough to say, like I said, without knowing the quality. I mean, personally, I was more excited for a Batgirl movie than a Flash movie, just because, I feel like I've seen... I mean, even though I haven't seen a Flash movie, I feel like...
But we've had so many seasons of the TV show.
Yeah, I feel like we have so many seasons of the TV show. I know already the story of Flashpoint. Like, I'm, of course, very excited about Michael Keaton as Batman, but I would have gotten Michael Keaton in Batgirl also. Mm-hmm. So, I feel like Batgirl was the more interesting property, at least for me, as somebody who is, like, my sister has always been a big fan of the Batgirl character. So, like, I feel like she brings more, like, a different perspective to the DC universe than either of those. I mean, personally, my hot take is that they should have just started over. Like, I understand there were a lot of projects in the works, but I think you either got to say one or the other. Either say we're gonna keep going with the DC universe, or we're just gonna like hard stop, cancel everything, and just proceed from like the Batman or something like that. Just because it's too confusing right now. Like, what's continuing? There's still Aquaman 2 is happening, but like maybe
But it got delayed also.
Yeah, so I feel like one of DC's biggest problems is they just send so much mixed messages with like you said, with like what projects do they tend to cancel, what projects do they tend to keep, and like I don't know, is Wonder Woman 2 canon? Like it's Marvel, it's very clear, kind of but DC, their plans are always like they're quick to announce everything, but then they just who knows.
Well, the biggest problem, and in one of Blood Discovery's defense, they finally acknowledge this. Their problem starting this universe is that they started it without Kevin Feige. Because Kevin Feige has been the one keeping everything in the MCU in line. They never had one, and they're actually saying that now they're looking for, like, they're trying to get their own Kevin Feige to be that person that is overseeing all the DC movies, keeping it in line, which that's definitely a huge help. A lot of people thought the Flash movie was going to do, time warping and be like where the universe kind of does a soft reboot from. But I feel like I would have been okay with them. Okay, well, these are our finished projects, so just burn the finished projects, and then now let's restart.
Yeah, that's what I would have done. Is basically I would have said everything that's mostly finished, like Batgirl and the Flash and stuff. Keep all that stuff. Maybe trim any stuff that's like trim off any like teasers for future movies or like post-credit scenes and stuff, and then release that, and then then hard stop. Everything else is new, like. Yeah. Imagine if Kevin Feige had taken over the X-Men universe 5 movies in. Like, it would have been a hot mess. Kevin Feige...
Well, it's funny you say... Wait, hold on. It's funny you kind of say that because that kind of... it wasn't Kevin Feige, but that kind of happened with the X-Men movies when they started to do the Days of Future Past and stuff. It kind of... Their whole timeline became a hot mess eventually.
Exactly. So, like, I think... Part of the reason, Kevin Feige, not to sell him short, what he did with the MCU was brilliant. But it was partly because he could start from nothing. Like, he was like, all right, here's our, 10-year plan from the beginning.
Yeah. But see, that's the thing. DC is saying they have a 10-year plan now, but it's very unclear what their 10-year plan is. And that was one of the big mistakes they did at the start, actually, was they tried to rush their movie. Like Justice League was rushed. It was like, we would just... The first Avengers film, that was built up to. We had all these solo movies, then finally, they all meet up. But DC was like, we gotta catch up to Marvel, so let's just do like 2 movies. Okay, now they all meet up. But hell, in the second movie, half the characters were already meeting each other.
Right, and I mean, like, the other benefit to going slow is you see what works and you see what doesn't. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in the MCU that kind of gets, like, less emphasis or gets retconned. Things that are, like, Iron Man 3 with the Mandarin plot twist and stuff. Like, when something doesn't go over well in the MCU, they have time to, like, course correct it because it's not, like, a wholesale thing. I mean, it's...
Yeah.
It's similar to actually the problem that Marvel is facing with like stuff like the Eternals. You know, when you just are like, hey, here's everybody all at once, then you kind of don't have that time to react to what the feedback is. I also think I don't know if it's just the fans, but DC needs to stop listening to the Snyderverse people. I'm sorry.
Oh God.
I'm sorry, but
I've said this before, but I hate those people with a passion.
Just like let it go. It's done. Please stop listening to them.
Like I said this before, I'll say this again. Zack Snyder is an overrated hack. I don't care who hates me for saying that, but I strongly feel that not only is Zack Snyder a mediocre director, but he's even worse because he thinks he's the best director ever. Like, he has such a huge unearned ego.
Yeah.
And that makes him so much worse.
Yeah, they made it. I think a bigger mistake than not having a Kevin Feige was they kind of. I mean, it was different than having a Kevin Feige, but they planned everything around Zack Snyder, and I can't for the life of me figure out.
That was a huge mistake.
I can't figure out why. Like, Man of Steel was not a smash hit, so why were they like, let's triple down on this? Yeah. I mean, I like Man of Steel. I actually like it.
It was an okay movie.
But
it was okay.
But
like, it was a fine starting point. But then Batman vs Superman is like, oh no, you have no idea what the hell you're doing, do you?
Yeah, it's just, and then to still give him Justice League after all that, I don't know. I think.
Well, that was just appeasing the toxic fans. Yeah. That's all that was.
Yeah. So I think, I hear that they're stepping away from the Snyderverse, which is good, but I'm just like, I think it's too late. All that stuff that you have built right now is tainted. Like, the Batman is great, and it's like a standalone thing. But see, that what's interesting, you bring up the Batman. Now, this is unconfirmed, so we can't say it's true, but I was reading that, okay, they're gonna do a trilogy of those Batman movies, and then that's it. No more with that universe, which makes no sense, because Matt Reeves actually has a ton of ideas of what to do with his universe, and it was good. Why not do more of this? But apparently they're just gonna let him do his trilogy. It's gonna be like the Dark Knight trilogy, which that was kind of a mistake in retrospect, to just do that trilogy, have that great foundation, then do nothing with it. Why would you do that again? Yeah, honestly, like I said, I mean, as somebody who's like obsessed with the Dark Knight trilogy is like one of the best superhero movies trilogies of all time. Having it like end, like I'm like, I want to know, I want to see so much more of that universe, like with all the different rogues that, like, Batman has arguably the best rogues gallery in comic books. Maybe Spider-Man's close, but yeah, I think Matt Reeves should absolutely, even if maybe I could see having like, his trilogy, and then like let someone else come in and play in that universe, and then have their trilogy. But I definitely wouldn't end that franchise on, maybe I'll eat my words if the second one's terrible, But yeah, I would say keep on with that, and even like I don't know. I just can throwing it back to you for a second. Is there anything going on at Warner Brothers that you're like genuinely excited about? Because the closest thing for me is Shazam 2, and that's only because
and that got pushed back as well.
And that's only because I'm like a diehard fan of Zachary Levi. Like that is the only thing they're working on that I'm excited about. Even like Dwayne The Rock Johnson, who I love, I think that movie's going to be bad. I think Black Adam's going to be a bad movie.
Well, it's I don't like Black Adam. I know that's what they're doing in the comics, but I never liked Black Adam as an anti-hero. I always liked him as the villain to Shazam. So I like that as the cautionary tale for Billy Batson to see how these powers are no joke. See what happens if you don't take these powers seriously. I always like that idea.
Yeah.
I don't like him as his anti-hero.
Yeah, I mean, I just hate in general the trend of like making all the villains heroes. I think sometimes you need villains.
Yeah, and here's some other weird things. Woman, like, have you ever heard of the sitcom Chad?
No. Okay,
well, it looked terrible. Let me make this clear. It looked terrible. She was SNL actress Nasim Pedrad. So the weird thing, she was like a full-grown woman playing a teenage boy. The show looked terrible, but it got renewed for season 2. Now, hours before season 2 was going to premiere, they decided to pull the plug on it. And again, it's like you literally did it hours before it was going to premiere. They already were doing spent all the money marketing it. It's again like not showing any respect to creators.
Yeah.
And it was just such a weird decision. And again, this is me saying I never watched the show. I look at the commercials. I'm like, this show seems like the worst idea ever. But I'm still upset because it's like you already finished it. You do it at literally the last second. That's not right.
Yeah, that makes me think of the whole thing that happened with like Swamp Thing. How they put all this investment into the first episode of Swamp Thing, which I never saw, but I was told was really good. And then as soon as before the first episode even aired, they were like, oh yeah, it's canceled. It's not getting renewed. Why would you tell me that before I've watched the first episode? Now I don't want to.
But you know what? At least they put all the episodes up though.
Yeah.
At least it's like, okay, yeah, you're not renewing my project, but at least my work is out there for people to see. At least they did that.
But it's still like an example of them self-sabotaging. They need to pick a plan and stick with it, and
yeah.
It needs to be a better plan than their previous one.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but so many titles have just without any warning going off HBO Max. And a lot of these shows were HBO Max originals, so they're literally available nowhere. Like, one of the cartoons Infinity Train, it's like a very thought-provoking cartoon. It was a show I always said, oh, I'm gonna watch that one. I'm gonna watch that one day. And now, they pulled it all off. Now it's unavailable to watch. The creator is even like, hey, if you wanna watch my show, now you gotta pirate it.
Oh,
so
man.
Yeah, so you can see that the creators, they're very upset by this. And it's like, again, why do you want less, this makes no sense to me. Why do you want less content on your streaming service?
Right.
You already have, the more content the better, even if only one person subscribes for it, that's still $10 you're getting. It's not like I don't just see what they're losing by leaving it on there.
Yeah, that one boggles my mind. The only time Netflix has ever, to my knowledge, removed an original thing is with the Marvel shows, and that was because obviously the Marvel license didn't belong to them. But
yeah,
that was like a.
But now they're all on Disney Plus though.
but that was a very specific circumstance. I mean, I think every
Exactly.
single other Netflix original series is still up there and will be forever, to my understanding.
Because why wouldn't it be? Like, it makes no sense why they're just doing all this. And like, it's weird, like some of the films they take, The Witches, which was like, I remember when the HBO Max was first coming out, that was like the movie they were heavily promoting, like, as like the big like first original, because it had a huge cast, was based on a known book, and then like again, I never saw it, I only heard mixed things about it, but still, just to move it like that, like, where is the logic behind that? And I remember though, to just show how disorganized this is, I know there's one show, Uncle Grandpa, they moved every episode except for one. Probably a mistake, but that just goes to show how they don't have a handle on this thing. That, oops, they accidentally left one episode of the show on there. It's like these are just the weird decisions that they're doing that are pissing off the creators, understandably. Like, it's upsetting the fans of the show, and it's like, what are you accomplishing on this? Like, nobody understands. Like, I've read articles about these. People talk about all these things disappearing. There's yet to be an explanation why.
So yeah, it seems like, basically what we're saying is that Warner Brothers has a huge catalog of like famous, recognizable IP, and they've basically just got to manage it better, and kind of, put more faith in their creators.
Yeah, and like I said, even if this, like I just the burden of the old stuff, just like I'm still just baffled by that, because it's like, why, like what is the goal behind that? At least with Batgirl, I strongly disagree with it. I get, oh well, you wanted that tax write-off. With this, there's no logic behind this.
Yeah, I have to imagine that's either a mistake or some sort of like weird.
No, it's not a mistake, because of the way it's happening. It's clearly systematic. I think David Zaslav, he seems to have a very like strict quality standards, what he feels belongs on HBO Max, which is ridiculous in my opinion. Like, Netflix thrives off terrible content. Like, this idea that, oh, if it's not up to standards, we gotta remove it. Which a lot of that stuff was critically acclaimed, but probably he didn't know about it, so he's like, we can remove it.
That's so strange, because I feel like it's having a quality standard makes sense for movies, but for HBO Max, like, just put everything on there.
Yeah, I get going forward. You like, okay, no, we're not gonna produce these terrible stuff anymore just for content. I get that. Oh, going forward, our new content is gonna meet our standards, but the things already made, just leave them there. Like, seriously. It's just a bunch of baffling decisions, one after another.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, without having some knowledge of why they would just take their stuff down, I don't know. I feel like they've got to have strong messaging and say, all right, these are what we're putting out, like, and I don't know, and just follow through on it. Like, I know that, like, I'm making it sound, I acknowledge it is much harder to, run a studio than just to say, oh yeah, go do it. But there's just no excuse for, when you have so many beloved properties. Like, Superman and Batman are the two most iconic superheroes. And we should be, like, drowning in amazing movies. Like, and that's just two. They, you rattled off a bunch of them earlier. I mean, they have so much in their catalog, but they just,
like I said, they're second only to Disney.
they just don't know what to do with it, though. They don't have anyone
They clearly don't.
managing their brands. I think they should maybe have, like, create subdivisions of people who are, like, really passionate about these different franchises, you know, instead of kind of just, I guess the word I'm thinking of is reactionary. I feel like Warner Brothers is just too reactionary. They throw a movie out there, it does poorly, they totally reverse course and change everything and cancel everything. They get a bad.
That is actually very true.
They get a bad test screening. They cancel the movie. They fans tweet at them and they green light the Snyderverse. Like, I feel like they are too reactionary, and I think if they have maybe subdivide, similar to how Disney has, like Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm, they got Kevin Feige with Marvel. Appoint these people who are really passionate about that particular IP, or at least have a strong handle on that IP, and have them kind of in charge of that universe, and then just stick to it. And adjust your plan to feedback, but don't totally reverse course and start burning every bridge. That would be kind of my closing thought.
Well, yeah, like I said. And I agree, because I like definitely the burning bridges, because if I was, a successful filmmaker, actor, or whatever, until they start doing things differently, I definitely would not want to work with Warner Brothers when they're this volatile. But yeah, I think that's my closing thoughts. They just gotta be more respectful to their creators.
Agreed.
Alright, I think we can wrap it up here.
Alright.
Alright, so this was Off Topic with Mike and JD. I'm still JD.
And I'm still Mike.
Have a nice day.
Thanks for watching.